Got to running around. First thing I know, I was jailhouse bound. Well, I got in jail with my mouth poked out. Well, now I'm in the pen, and I can't get out. It's long gone. It's long gone. It's long gone. Oh, long gone. Well, the John made. There's a parachute. Well, the funny shoe that was ever seen. Had a heel in front and a heel behind. Well, it didn't know where that the boy was blind. In Long John, he long gone. He gone John. Oh, Long John. Well, it's 2-3 minutes. Let me catch my wind. And it's 2-3 minutes. I'm gone again. Oh, Long John. Oh, Long John. Well, I call this summer. Ain't gonna call no more. If I call next summer, be in Baltimore. Be long gone. Be long gone. In Long John. He long gone. Well, the John said in the chapter 14, every man lives that his sin be seen. But Long John, he long gone. I could take you to the cone, to the long cone. Well, it's John. Well, marble-eyed John. Well, it's Long John. Well, a tenderfoot John. Well, it's long coat on. Just to skip into the cone. A Long John. Well, Long John. He long gone. He long gone. Well, you boys there. What the captain said.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Warning, some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewers' discretion is advised, so this video may not be for you, so that means you might as well stop watching right now. Thank you and welcome back. Salutations, thank you. Great to be back. Salutations. Hope everyone's having a fabulous dog-free week as much as you can. Sometimes you can be avoiding dogs as much as you can, but somehow these dogs and these dog nutters, somehow they find you. Whether it's in a grocery store, a department store, on the street, in the bank, you see pictures of them, ads of them, you name it. Sometimes you're not even looking for dogs. It's not even crossing your mind, then poof, you see a worthless mutt and their dim-witted owners. But nevertheless, hope everyone's having a fabulous dog-free week and have had a safe dog-free summer as much as possible. For the most part, I have. I would say still haven't been attacked yet. Couple, dog nuttery events that I've seen this summer. But I am still here, still kicking, still here to provide you with some with a different perspective of this dog culture. If you're new here, what everyone is used to when it comes to these dogs is the lies that they tell, the excuses, the propaganda. You only see one side of this dog culture, to a point where people are not allowed to have their opinion when it goes against dogs and their dog culture. There is a stigma against people who don't like dogs, who are scared of dogs, who are allergic to dogs, who want to give up their dog, where they must remain in silent and put up with the dogs and put up with dogs and their dogs and someone else's dog. The dog nutters, rather you do that, rather you jeopardize your own health, your own very own health for a worthless mutt like a dog. So they rather you just be quiet and love this dog. Be quiet and stick around with this dog. But things are changing. Things are changing. May not be rapidly, but I feel and I've seen progress since I've been doing this for the last 5 years. Nevertheless, things are changing. In some social media comment forums, whatever, I'll state my piece against dogs, and somehow I get support. Like some random people I don't even know, they'll support, they'll like my post when I'm just going against dogs. So there is, progress. Today's video, in today's segment, we are going to be discussing and looking at the roles dogs played in slavery. And what we know about the American slavery is all, the common things that we know. Slave ships, you're here, chained up, whipped. That's what we know. But in the textbooks and in general, no one ever wants to mention the dogs. No one wants to mention the roles the dogs played. It wasn't just the so-called slave master whooping the so-called slave. I don't think I'll call them slaves. I don't like to do that. I don't know. But sake of argument, until I can find a better word to use, it wasn't only the so-called master beating the people. It was dogs. They used dogs to attack, dogs to hurt, dogs to torment, dogs to abuse, dogs to kill the people, to kill the slaves. And we don't hear about that side. All we hear is dogs are man's best friend, and that is not the truth. The question is, was this man's best weapon? Were dogs man's best weapon? With people, they're gonna have their dysfunctions. They're gonna fall asleep. They're gonna miss something, so they're not 100% reliable. The guns that they have, they're gonna not work from time to time. They're gonna need new ones. The ammo, whatever ammunition they use, it wasn't like it is today, so it's not gonna be sufficient, 100% sufficient. I believe they've always had runaway slaves. And sometimes, knowing the ability of the people, they were faster, they were stronger, they were able to get away, but they would have to use something, not just to catch the slave, not just to catch the people, but use something to bring fear. Use something to torment. Use something to abuse. Use something that will make the people stay put and do what they're told. And that's where the dog comes in. As much as the dog is worthless, the dog nutter knows that dogs have a good, great sense of smell. dogs can run pretty fast. And that's what they were used for, being able to smell the people who are escaping, and as well as to chase them down. So we have a lot to share, and I really hope I'm not all over the place. I did sort of rehearse and kind of go through things that I've collected. Please bear with me. This is the first time, walking on this side of things. I know it's a sensitive subject, but yeah, I'm if I want to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it. And if it's just not for you, then it's not for you. So before we get really deep into this, I'm not a historian. I know things regarding history. I've listened to a lot of things, but I'm not a good reteller of history. I'm not a good regurgitator. Like, I understand certain points, but it's really hard for me to explain it, but I get it. And also, I guess remembering years and things like that is not my best thing, but I understand various civilizations, various things around in history. So I'm gonna do my best to be a teacher, or at least do my best to be a historian to my best ability. So from what I have been taught, some things I agree with, some things I disagree, some things I question, something I just leave as is. But what we're taught is that life, began in Africa. Like, life began right in Africa. I accept this to an extent. I just don't think it was the only place, in my opinion, where life started from. There's just so many races, so many various civilizations, and if life started in Africa, how, again, just a little question, how did they get all the way to South America, or the so-called South America, or the so-called North America? These waters and the direction of things, it's not easy. It's not easy to venture over there. So I just think and believe that life started in various places, and probably with various races. I can't confirm it, but this is just my opinion. It's just what I kind of think and feel. But anyway, so what the history books and historians and TV and the media tells us is that the people of the so-called melanated people of South America, the Caribbean, you guys can see this. That's a little better. So-called melanated people of North America, the Caribbean, the melanated people of South America. They're stating that we all came from Africa to this land of the West, so-called West, as they say. But from the things that I've read and watched and things that I've observed from day to day, I've come to an acceptance of a lot of the melanated people were already in Canada. They were already in the U.S. They were already in the Caribbean. They were already in the South Americas. They were already in the Australia. They were all over the world. But I highly question the so-called Atlantic slave trade. Here we have people that are going to stuff these boats, fill them up with people, chain them up, and then sail them across the Atlantic Ocean to the Americas, when it's going to be cold. The boat's going to be rocking. People are going to get sick. They're going to get cold. Their legs are going to get numb and probably need to get amputated. They're going to get hurt. It's probably going to take months to get from Africa all the way to the Americas, to the Caribbean, to South America. And the storms, the raging storms, the waves, you name it. Things are going to happen. Think that they got to eat. And they can't survive on whatever sludge they're giving them. They have to eat. They're probably going to be stressed out. They're going to be depressed. Their spirituality is going to be depleted. So they're taking them all the way from Africa through the waters and through all the trauma, bringing them to the U.S. And then they're expecting them to work and to be a slave when they're sick, when they're hurt, they're depressed, they're stressed. How does that work? That doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make sense. Not even as in a business perspective, not even as in a slavery perspective, where you're basically torturing your product, bringing them over to the West. They're all sick, they're all hurt, and then you're gonna expect them to still work? You're not gonna get anything done. You're not going to get anything done. A lot of them are going to have died on this ship. That doesn't make sense. I believe it somewhat happened, but I don't think it happened the way the textbooks say it happened. But from what I know and what I accept is that a lot of the melanated people of the so-called Canadas, the U.S., the Caribbeans, the South Americas, they were all already here. They were all already here. Which makes it a lot easier. Less time wasted. They have the energy. The place is warm, good weather. A lot easier to use the excuse my way I'm saying this, but using using the people to do what they need to do. So yeah, I accept that they were already here, and you're gonna see as we go along. They're not gonna tell us that a lot of people are already here, but it's implied that a lot of people were already in the Jamaicas, in the Haitis, in the Caribbean, in the South America. They were already here. And whatever we've been taught or learned in the schools and the textbooks, again, they're obviously hiding something. They obviously have some kind of agenda. So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so a lot of the people of the Jamaicas, the Barbados, etc., the Caribbean, people were already there. The melanated people were already there. It probably just wasn't just melanated people. Could have been a mixture of different kind of complexions. But they were all already here. Doing what they're doing. Whatever they're doing it. And here comes these the slave masters, the whatever, I don't know, the Europeans, if you want to call them. And take for Jamaica, for example. So they arrive in Jamaica, and long story short, some tribes were called the Maroons, where they seen that these, I guess you say, the Europeans or whatever, they came to conquer. So they would run up into the mountains, run up high to get away from the enemy, get away from being conquered. And some point it was unreachable. It was unreachable to the new settlers to get them. So what do you think they're going to do? What do you think they're going to use? They're going to have to use dogs. They didn't have planes back then, so they're going to have to use dogs. Dogs are just going to run and search and until they find the people there. Into Generational trauma. I've always I've always hated, I wouldn't say hate first, but I was always scared of dogs first. Always scared of dogs. I never owned one, never lived with one as a child, but at the moment I saw a dog, I was afraid of dogs. Just made me nervous, anxious, uncomfortable. I just did not want to be around them. And I think that my fear of dogs is probably due to intergenerational trauma. I feel and believe that maybe my ancestors that were living in the Caribbean, Jamaica, etc., they were probably being tortured, abused by these dogs. And which is probably why I am in the state that I am today. As again, I've never lived with a dog, but I was always scared of them. Like I've actually had no dog has ever bit my flesh, but somehow I was always scared of them, and that just made me think maybe something happened. During the slavery days of the Caribbean. Maybe one of my ancestors developed trauma. They were attacked. They were, a lot of anxiety, a lot of nervousness around them, which is probably why I inherited them. Inherited the fear of dogs, and look where I am today. It's as if, my ancestors, gave me this, ability, or gave me an opportunity to speak against the dogs that had tormented them for many, many years. This is just my theory of this. Intergenerational trauma is the theory that trauma can be inherited because there are genetic changes in a person's DNA. Can trauma be passed down through genetics? They found evidence that trauma can be passed down between generations. Epigenetically, which means that trauma experienced by an ancestor might affect the way your genes are expressed. Bale's extensive work shows that parental stress can impact the following factors in children: risk of obesity, risk of diabetes, etc. So I still believe, theoretically, that something happened back in the day, and which is why I have this fear and hatred of dogs. Some of the dogs used during the slavery days were the bloodhounds, foxhounds, bulldogs, Scotch staghounds, and curs. So some of these are the types of dogs that were used during the slavery days, used to attack and abuse and to torment the people. A lot of these dogs are used for hunting. They're used for hunting to kill for today. Now they're used to kill innocent animals. Now the police use them, the military use them, and they use them what? Against the people. The question is, why do so many Black Americans have a fear of dogs? This was produced April the 22nd, 2021, and it was produced on the website Evolve Teacher by Gamay Drummond Bay. So again, why do so many Black Americans have a fear of dogs? And like I was saying, there's a reason for this. There's a reason why man's best friend has historically actually been white man's best friend, and a source of torture and terror for so-called blacks. On the other, before that, so many adults in my family are afraid of dogs, like deathly afraid. Only a few of my family members have dogs as pets. This is actually common. There are many black Americans who are comfortable with certain dogs, but not just any dogs. And I think all this also, again, like she's saying, it has to do with intergenerational trauma. They add in this slide, large number of black Americans do not trust or feel comfortable around dogs. Growing up, I would see black adults in my community run from the tiniest dogs. I'm the same way too. I was not comfortable around any dog. And if someone did have a dog, they would have to shut them in a room where there were visitors. I've been through this as well. And sometimes the owner of the house didn't like doing that. They didn't like doing that. And some occasions the dog would slip out. And guess what? I was out of there. Because they were afraid, many of the children were taught to be afraid as well. And so much fear is learned and passed down. And in today's day, they're really trying to, not just with the so-called black children, but children in general, they want all children to be dog nutters, dog lovers. They're bringing dogs, specifically bully breeds, into the class. They're bringing police dogs into the classroom, pushing them in hospitals, you name it. We have parents allowing their babies, their children to stay at daycares or home daycares where there are dogs around. And in many of those cases, the dog ends up attacking the child, sometimes even unfortunately killing the child. So they really are pushing this dog nuttery, dog propaganda on the children. One of the first videos I made, it might have been titled Where It All Started, was that they use the cartoons. Cartoons are being used, television, TV, things like that. They use these cartoons of dogs and they make the dog, likable with good personality. And the hero, likable, good looking, etc., etc., good voice, etc. And children seeing that, they probably get brainwashed and say, hey, I want a dog. They go, hey, not all dogs are bad. They watch shows like Paw Patrol. Hey, not all dogs are bad. But in reality, all dogs are bad. In reality, all dogs are dangerous. But the child doesn't know that because they only know what they see on the TV. And then you, for instance, you take them to the park. They see a dog roaming around. They think it's okay to approach and to touch up the dog. They decide to do that. They ask permission, ask their parents for permission, ask the owner for permission, dog on the leash, whatever. They end up going and petting the dog. And sometimes, again, unfortunately, they get attacked. They get attacked. And this is because, again, not just because of this factor alone, but it's because, again, the media helps to brainwash children to liking these worthless mutts. During slavery, slave dogs were viewed as the most effective way to control enslaved people. This was not only in the Americas, but in Haiti, Jamaica, and Cuba, and etc. Like I said, the question is, was this man's best weapon? And just from this alone, you can see, hey, it was the most effective way. But the history books, the other historians, they have no mention of dogs being used. Not a single mention of that. You may see him subtly in these pictures, but they don't mention that, hey, dogs were used to maul slaves. Dogs were used to make slaves work. Dogs were used to keep slaves in line. You don't hear that. Because dogs, they have this, delusional image about them. If you're always going to be hiding something, living in denial regarding these dogs, then the facts about it, something about it has to be true. You have to be hiding something if you're willing to do so much nonsense, so much denial, excuses, and lies for these dogs. Dogs were trained to pursue and terrorize black bodies. By the 1840s, the practice of keeping slave dogs was widespread. Newspaper advertisements like one in the West Tennessee Democrat describing the finest dogs for catching Negroes document the rise of professional slave hunting, trackers, interbred Cuban hounds, with local dogs as slave hunting became a profitable venture for the so-called white man throughout the South. Yep. These dogs they played an integral and an important part, an important role during the slavery days. Terrorizing the people, hurting, mauling the people. Imagine the babies and the children. We learn one of the most common thing we learn about during slavery is gator bait. Thing we learn about in history is gator bait. This is where they would use children to lure alligators or any other beast out so they can maul the child and they can capture the alligator for whatever means. But you don't hear about the senseless actions they use with these dogs against the children. You don't hear about the acts that they use these dogs, the roles these dogs played in slavery. You don't hear about them. And they even have stamps of babies as gator baits or pictures. But you're barely gonna find such thing regarding dogs. So you're not gonna see an angry dog like this chasing a child like this. Like you're not gonna see a term gator bait in a dog terminology. So even though dogs played a big role in slavery, where they were forced to use dogs were forced to be the menace that they are against the people. But you don't hear that like this. You don't hear things like gator bait. You don't see stamps. You don't hear about this. There's barely any documentation regarding dogs being used. Dogs being used to torment, to attack the people. Somehow dogs get a pass. Even to this day, they are known. They are the most fatal against our children. Whereas the alligator and gators, they still tend to leave everyone alone. I'm not sure about children with gators now, but from videos and things I've seen, a lot of these gators tend to leave, or they tend to run away from people. They tend to walk away from people. Like, you can stand near them and they won't bother you. They won't do anything. But dogs, you can feed them, so-called love them, and they will still attack you. I'm not saying you're not going to get attacked by a gator, but you are most likely going to be more likely to be attacked by a dog than by a gator. They were used to terrorize peaceful protesters in the 1960s. I'm going to get into it a little bit more, but remember, there's that saying that dogs can sense bad people. Here we have people that want something. They want rights. They want, opportunities. But yet dogs are attacking them. It's because obviously they're trained to do so. Dogs don't care if you're a good or bad person. As long as you feed them and train them and you have them by the neck, that's all that matters. But these dog nuts that always say, that will post memes of dogs can sense bad people, it's ludicrous. What about situations like this, where dogs are attacking innocent people just because they want to live, just because they want rights, just because they want to live peacefully? And they're attacking people because they want to live peacefully? And dogs have a mind of their own. But at the same time, it's like they don't make decisions like people do. But these dog nutters will put them on this pedestal, put them as, innocent, harmless. When in fact, throughout history, they've been used as weapons against innocent people. And the dog never once said, hey, no, I don't want to do this. And what do you think is going to happen if the dog does that? When the dog does that and say, I don't want to attack so-and-so, the people are going to kill the dog. The dog's pretty much worthless. Because people want the dog to do what they say. It's not about good or bad. Not about if you're a good person or bad person. We've seen many stories of these dog nutters, dog lovers, doing well, meaning well for these dogs, but then still getting attacked. So it's not about if you're a good person or bad person. Dogs don't care. We've seen dogs with abusive owners, criminals, bad people. So it's not about being good and bad. So I just wish these dog nutters would just stop with the rhetoric, stop with the nonsense. Peace dogs and anti-black violence. I may touch base on this. Maybe I could do it now. Long story. I kind of went through this a little bit in my Police Dogs Are Worthless 2 video. Unfortunately, what they're saying is that men most often the victim of dog bites. Men are most often the victim of dog bites, and non-whites are bit more than whites. And so many things we can say about this. So many factors, so many explanations that we can, kind of say about this. But that's fact, though. And a lot of times the people that they're attacking are innocent. A lot of times the people that are being attacked are surrendering. But what does the dog nut do? Still lets the dog attack. And the guy will be rolling in pain, screaming in pain, and they're going to take their time. And once it's over, they're going to act as if, they were clueless. Because a lot of these dog nutters, police, canine officers, they want to see the dog hurt someone. Whether, it may not even be racial. But a lot of these police officers want their dogs to hurt someone. They want to see it. They want to see it. And they spend a lot of money and training and etc. They want to see it happen. Are you wasting hours and money on this worthless mutt? Of course they want to see it happen. But they're not going to actually say it. I just wish they were more honest about it. Yeah, and this one it says the dog lunged and found the man and bit down, according to court records. It took almost 2 minutes for the handler to pull the dog off. 2 minutes. Dog is mauling this guy for 2 minutes. And took the handler that long. And before long, the suspect, a 51-year-old black man, bled to death. The dog had torn an artery in his groin. The man, Joseph Lee Petaway, and his family says he was no burglar. He got in trouble for bad checks, served time years ago, but was now taking care of his 87-year-old mother, Lizzie May, and the helping to repair the pink house in the neighborhood. They said he had a key and permission to sleep there. That's just an example. They say dog bites in nearly every state. Some cities use biting dogs far more than others. Police dog bites can be more like shark attacks than nips from a family pet. So it's like you get attacked by one of these, I guess, German shepherds, whatever you want to call them. It's somewhat like a you getting attacked by a shark. And we've seen footage of these things biting down and shaking. Many people bitten were unarmed, accused of non-violent crimes, and weren't suspects at all. This goes to show a lot of these police dog nutters, they just want to see their dog hurt someone. Some dogs won't stop biting and must be pulled off by a handler, worsening the injuries. Imagine that. The thing is biting down on you, and the worthless, brain-damaged mutt will not let go. So what does this dog nut have to do? The dog nut has to then pull it off of you, causing the friction of your skin and the dog's teeth, sharp teeth, making it even worse than before. I mean, these dogs go through so much training, and they say that these dogs graduate. So why is it so hard to stop? Why is it so hard for these dogs just to stop? These dog training doesn't make any sense. We've seen them. I've seen them. I've shown some. The individual is surrendering, whether he's handcuffed or not, is on the ground. The dog will continue to bite. The handler will say, let go. The dog will continue to bite. Why does it need to take this long? It should be instinct. Instinct. But it's not. It's torture. Men are the most common targets of police dog bites, and studies suggest in some places victims have disproportionately black. Again, I'm not trying to protect and to dismiss anything. I mean, if you're guilty, you're guilty. If you're innocent, then you're innocent. I'm talking about those that are innocent. I'm talking about those that have surrendered. But there are cases where people don't surrender, and again, if you know you did something wrong, just turn yourself in. But unfortunately, when these police forces you have these dogs, it makes things a little bit more complicated. Again, I'm not trying to dismiss any actions and behavior of individuals, but I just wish that the police dogs should be abolished, because they cause more harm than any good. And when these worthless mutts, retire or die or whatever, they get these horrendous funerals where they will block the streets for a dog. to have like these little worthless parades for a worthless mutt. Tell me that ain't dog nuttery. For many dog bite, there's little accountability or compensation. So a dog can bite you and you can be hurt so bad that, it won't matter. You're going to have to live with the pain. No compensation, no nothing. But in some cases, there have been people who won cases against the police force. So after this incident, they found that every single time a person had been bitten by a police canine, that person was melanated. I don't like this term, but yeah. But again, one of the most iconic pictures during the civil rights movement of them using dogs against the protesters. Here are people that mean well for themselves and for their families, and they're going to use these dogs against them. Why? It's because they're weapons. That's why, because dogs are weapons. Yeah, still gonna a lot more I want to share regarding the roles that dogs played during the slavery days and up until now, and anything that was racial. I believe in the unity, harmony, and living in peace and whatnot, and I guess saying holding hands and singing kumbaya. I think that's better than living in the state that we're living in now. So I guess it's more like a disclaimer. I'm just telling things how it is. I'm just speaking it how it is and how I feel and what I think. And in society in general, you're not allowed to do that. It's sort of like dog culture where you have to just be quiet regarding dogs. But in subjects like race, when it comes with race or culture, when it's not PC, they want you not to say anything about it. Just don't speak about it. Say nothing. But I believe, and I accept that talking about racial issues is the best way to fix things and find solutions or common grounds or find an understanding. When we keep quiet, it just creates this flame war of racial tension. It's really not necessary in 2024. I mean, all time though, but in time like now, it's really not necessary to be racist. It's just not necessary. Like, we are all one people. We all pretty much came from the same place. So it's not necessary. And for people to be so rude and extreme to people that live differently, have different cultures, like, what's the point of that? Like, it's 2024. Obviously, people around the world are going to live differently. Like, how do you not know that? Does someone really need to tell you that there are different people in the world? Does someone really need to tell you that there are different types of skin tones in the world? Like, really? Like, sometimes I just don't understand people. But overall, I believe that we all could live at one. And I always had that. I always had that goal when I was younger, that we'd all live in one and be all peaceful and all that. But things today have been getting worse. But there's still time. There's still hope that we can all just, come together, be peaceful. But there's always going to be that rotten egg. There's always going to be that one person or a few people that are you just can't help. And, sometimes they can be influential. But I believe in choice. I believe people have choices. People are the ones that make choices every day. So you have that choice whether to follow, whether to be influenced or not, whether to accept or believe. You have that choice. And when you just go on and follow things without doing your research, without any type of questioning or whatnot, then it just makes you kind of dumb. Just to be rude to other people, it makes you dumb. It really does. And I'm so sick of how this world is. Always have been when I was younger, but so right now, like, I'm just so sick of it. So yeah, it's more of like a disclaimer. But I rather we sing Kumbaya than to live in the state that we are now, and I just hope that we do get better. The excuse me, the term "man's best friend" you can say it was originated from Frederick the Great of Persia. I'm not sure what year, not 100% sure of what year, but from what I've got, the term "man's best friend" that we're so used to hearing came from a dog nutter. His name was Frederick the Great of Persia. And to say dogs are man's best friend, and then to use them during slavery is it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, we're all men. We're a man, woman, all one. But say something as worthless as dogs is man's best friend, when all they do, whether it's now or in the past, is attack, torment, and abuse people. Why didn't these guys use cats? Why didn't they use tigers? Why didn't they use rabbits? Why didn't they use any other animal? Why did they settle on dogs? Like, that's all I've read about. It was only use dogs. Why use them? If these things are man's best friend, they can sense bad people. They don't judge. They love. They're loyal, etc., etc. Why use such a thing against people? And the reason is because, like they stated, they're effective. Dogs were effective. Dogs were the most effective way to control, enslave the people. We'll touch base on like how they train these things to attack, and just to mention train. I mean they were able to train dogs to just attack, the people, the melanated people. So that says a lot. That you can pretty much make a dog do anything. You can make a dog do anything. But people will act as if dogs choose. Again, this man's best friend, they act as if dogs choose to be your friend. When in fact, again, they train them to be around them. You feed them, they stay around you. You feed them, you train them to attack innocent people. And do you think the dogs ever said no? Think the dogs ever refused? No. So I just wish that whole rhetoric of dogs are man's best friend can just go down the drain. Because throughout history, and even now, we just fail to see it. Failing to see how these things can be man's best friend. Yeah, so it just wasn't people hurting people. They use dogs. And you look at a lot of these pictures, like you probably may see one around, but you barely see any dogs around. But in fact, dogs played in a integral. They played a vital role in the enslavement and in the slavery of people. But then dogs are looked up as these innocent, perfect angels when they're no more. They're nothing like that. They are evil. They're menacing. Can't see one dog in these pictures. Which is why they probably do that on purpose, to protect these worthless mutts. So they don't have a bad image. Again, that quote again. Dogs are man's best friend. Are you so sure? Are you so sure? They also say that dogs can sense bad people. If that was the case, why are dogs being used? Why were dogs being used during the slavery days? Obviously, the dog nuttery back then wasn't like how it is today. The dog nuttery back then was most likely, treat a dog like a dog. Using dogs for their ruthless, menacing, evil bloodlust. That's what it was about. But now it's like, they're treating dogs as if they're their children. Some of these dogs are bigger than them. And they treat these dogs as if they're their children. And these dogs, snap for no reason, mauling them for no reason out of nowhere. What was I saying? Yeah. So all this dogs are man's best friend, dogs can sense bad people. It's totally false. 100%, 200% false. If that was the case, these dogs would not have been used during the times of slavery. Far from it. In terms of conditioning dogs, it is so easy to make a dog do anything. It is very easy, and that's why they were used during the days of slavery. So a lot of us know about this Pavlov dog experiment. As we all know, dogs dogs' main goal is just to eat. All they want to do is eat. That's all they want to do. And when they see food, they're gonna act up for the food, whether it's drooling or moving like an idiot, basically. So when they take away the food and they just add a stimulus, a neutral stimulus, like a bell or anything, could be words, could be sayings, could be behavior, actions, and there's no food, the dog doesn't care. That dog does not care. But then when you add the food with the neutral stimulus, the dog will associate that saying, the words, the sounds with food. And you ring the bell, the dog gets food. Ring the bell, dog gets food. Even if you don't have food and you ring the bell, dog is going to expect that there's food there. So it is so easy to condition dogs. So easy to condition them. These things don't love you. These things really don't have any choice of anything. They don't have structure. Depending on what the dog nut wants, that's what the dog is going to do. Drugging up, condition them like this, that's what it is. And this is the types of things they used. Maybe not just this, but they use various techniques like this to train the dogs to attack the melanated people, to torment the melanated people. So brain dead dogs are. And people want to view these things as smart and intelligent. How can something that can easily be conditioned like this be smart and intelligent? Let's say people were like this, 100% like this. Would you think we were smart? Or would you think we were just dumb or brain dead? And the always obvious answer would be we would be looked at as brain dead, as zombies, as slaves. As, we don't think for ourselves. As I don't want to say it, but as like something that's like an inappropriate, word type of things. But dogs do it. Automatically, they're viewed as smart, great, loyal, all these positive things. When they're nothing but slaves. They're nothing but brain damaged mutants. Can make them do anything. Anything. And that is not good, though. That isn't good. It makes the dog look really, really bad. This article, what do I have? I didn't mark. I thought I marked something here. I did, yes. Slave owners, Negro dogs. This was written by Paulette Brown Hines, October the 4th, 2007. A prominent slavery approach involved in the control of the domination of the African American slave was the use of highly trained so-called Negro dogs. And the dogs they use, again, like we touched base earlier, was the bloodhounds, foxhounds, bulldogs. Those are the bully breed dogs. The Scotch staghounds and curs to track runaway slaves. The professional slave catcher provided their own Negro dogs and often allowed dogs to give a fugitive a severe mauling. So going back to runaway slaves. And again, this is something they never talk about during the slavery days. They never talk about when it came to runaway slaves. They never. You might see it in movies, but they don't really brush up on it much. Just like the old story of Harriet Tubman, or other runaway slaves. If these people are using dogs, it should have been very hard to escape. Very, very hard to escape. These things can smell, they can see things moving, and they're going to run and chase. And it is very difficult to outrun a dog. Very difficult to hide from a dog. And like they said, once the dog found you, you were giving a severe mauling. So again, I question a lot in these slavery days. I don't think things happen exactly what they say happened. But just imagine runaway slaves having to deal with dogs chasing them. That isn't going to be easy. Not going to be easy. They add the generic training of Negro attack dogs went like this. The dogs were locked up and never allowed to see a Negro except while training to catch them. So this kind of goes back to this training and conditioning these worthless mutts. So they were locked up, never allowed to see a Negro, aka the melanated people, except while training to catch them. Dogs were given the scent of a black person's shoe, an article of clothing, and taught to follow the scent. Sorry. taught to follow this scent. The slaves were sent out as trainees. So they were pretty much using the slaves as like dummies, basically, for the dogs. Pretty much like how you see today, where a lot of these dog trainers wear those call them pussy outfits, where the dog can kind of bite them. So basically, the slaves weren't wearing those pussy outfits. Instead, they were just basically dummies, bare naked, half naked, whatever, barely any clothes, for the dogs to maul them. When the dogs tread the slave, the dogs were given meat as a reward. Afterwards, they learned to follow any particular Negro by scent. So you're running away. These dogs know your scent. It's gonna be difficult to get away from them. Besides the patroller's readiness with the zest of sport, their canine Negro hunters were fierce, vicious, and fearsome beasts. This is probably why they chose these dogs. Was because they were fiercest, vicious, and fearsome beasts. They chose something that was dangerous, something that can kill you, hurt you. They didn't choose cats or rabbits. They didn't choose snakes. Because a lot of these animals, you cannot condition them to do anything. You can't condition a snake to be an attack snake. You can't condition a snake to sit or stand up or whatever. Can't condition any other animal to do anything. A lot of these other animals are not going to give a severe beating, like, a severe mauling like these dogs. So that's why they choose dogs, because dogs are vastly dangerous. If the dogs were not constrained at the end of the chase, they would tear a man to pieces. Franklin Runaway Slaves, page 160. Once discovered, the slave was bound, beaten, and bloodied. Man's best friend. Remember, they say these dogs... Might have closed it. But they say these dogs are man's best friend. And here we have them, where anyone could make them do anything, where they're going to attack, be fierce, be vicious, be fearsome, where they're going to maul and bloody up a person. Following slavery, attack dogs contributed to maintaining apathy, frustration, and chronic anger generated in black people by ongoing racism, as we've seen with like the attack dogs during the protests. There was a time like back in my day, I don't know if it was racist, it probably was a little racist with these little white kids. I didn't do nothing. I was kind of new in the neighborhood. And sometimes they would, I won't say sometimes, but there's maybe once or a couple times where they would like chase their dog after me. So, you take away slavery days and you live in let's say the Jim Crow era. You're probably going to have a lot of these, factors, white people chasing down, the melanated people, using these dogs to torment them, using these dogs to bark at them, to attack them, to make them like move away, to make them make their life miserable. So in a way, I've been there to an extent, sort of. So I kind of get that it's not just, these dogs were not just used to keep the people enslaved, but also were used to torment, to make the people uneasy. It is bad today, where we have dogs roaming free in various neighborhoods, where people are complaining about it and nothing happens. So imagine then you have a white family or white people who, have their problems. They're probably going to let that dog roam free, roam loose in the neighborhood. And you have Negroes and etc. They have to go to work. They got to go to school. And what do they have to deal with? They got to deal with this dog. And, during those times, the police aren't going to do anything. Animal control, if that was the thing, wasn't going to do anything. The dog owners are not going to do anything. So I could imagine that it was very frustrating. And do you think these dogs cared? No, they don't care. And that's why in today's dog propaganda, they have to lie and put these labels and be delusional regarding these dogs. When in fact, these dogs are horrible. They're horrible. And they even use the words. I didn't write this. These dogs were apathy, frustration, chronic, the anger. They're vicious. They're fearsome. They beat, mauled people to death. And I'm pretty sure a lot of dog attacks happen and that were just not recorded. Excuse my talking. I'm not sure why I'm feeling like I'm zigzagging, but forgive me for the way I'm sounding. But anyways, as we continue, no doubt attack dogs produce psychic trauma in many minds of the slaves, subsequent blacks, either from direct experience or from vicarious empathy. I'm not sure what that means. Vicious. What does that even mean? Empathy, the ability to vicariously experience and to understand the effect of other people. But what does this word mean? The vicariously emotional experience is whatever emotion a person manifests that is caused by the expression of another person's emotion. And alone, it means experienced in an imagination through the feeling or action of another person. Chances are the trauma designed in a few black people mentally transforms from peaceful people into hateful mindset, a mindset that was culturally transmitted. Could that be transmission displayed today as hateful reenactments? Dogs used as symbols. Otherwise, an entire scenario regarding attack dogs on blacks has set up a special dog atmosphere from my boyhood days onward. I have seen many black people terribly afraid of the most gentle dogs, but with irritable dogs, that fear often causes those dogs to go on the attack. I have treated some of those black people for vicious dog bites and seen how they are adversely affected. So, kind of goes back to a little bit. Did I? I might have deleted it. Oh, here it is. Intergenerational trauma. And it's not just trauma being passed down generation to generation, but the trauma can be, watching, let's say, your friend getting attacked, knowing a family member that got attacked, hearing a story of so and so being attacked, seeing pictures and videos that can create trauma. And when people see that, they're gonna quickly associate dogs as evil. They're gonna, associate fear with dogs, run with dogs, stay away from dogs, and that's what we should be doing, because realistically, dogs are fearsome. They will attack and approach anyone, no matter what. They're going to attack you. They're going to hurt you. So it's always good to stay away from them. Um, and the trauma that dogs cause is it's something that isn't talked about much. And I know I've talked about it, but in the general audience, dog attack trauma from dog attacks, it's not talked about often. They will talk about the attack and the bite. Yes, I'm not saying to ignore that, but the trauma is worse, and I'm like living proof of it, that it is worse. I've never been attacked, but I do have a feeling that my ancestors were attacked or had to deal with dogs, and I hate dogs. I've been scared of dogs since day one of my life. Never been around them, never been bitten, but I hate them. I'm scared of them. But imagine those that have been attacked. Imagine that. It must be worse than what I feel. Worse than what I've been through. And it's not talked about. And obviously there are reasons for that. Again, it's to protect and to continue to push the dog propaganda. I mean, if you talk about things like trauma, it's going to spread. You're going to influence other people to stay away from dogs. In dog culture, they don't want that. Even though a dog is dangerous, they want you to stay around dogs. Even though these dogs were used in a key role in slavery, they still want us all to stay around them. When they're nothing but problems. They have tormented the people. They have helped oppress the people. Help keep the people in fear and in chains. Not one of these dogs, or none of the dogs, decided, hey, this is wrong. We should stand with the slaves and try to help them. But no, they continue to torment and attack the melanated people. In this article, Black People's Complicated History with Dogs, produced August the 29th, 2023 by Shannon Dawson of News One. This is the Chicago Crusader. And this site is the Black Voice News. They add, while dogs have been beloved companions in many Black households across the world, it's important to remember, as the U.S. observes National Dog Day, that the history of Black people's interaction with dogs includes a legacy of oppression, fear, and resilience. Black people's complicated relationship with dogs can be tracked back to the era of slavery in the United States. Enslaved Black individuals faced the terrifying reality of dogs being used by slave owners as tools of control and intimidation. Trained as hunting and tracking animals, dogs were employed to track escaped slaves, creating an atmosphere of constant fear and danger. Imagine that. And I always question, and I do know about the Harriet Tubman story, but I'm not going to get into it today in this video. And they say that she freed up how many slaves did Harriet Tubman freed? She rescued 300 people in 19 trips. So she's going back and forth. And that's another thing. Sorry, I know I go back and forth. So, again, I don't accept the stories of slavery that they're telling us. And these people have agendas. I get it. It's up to you as the individual to do your own research. Can't just be like a bird and just open your mouth and to be spoon-fed or something. You got to go out there and do your work and find various information. So we have the story of Harriet Tubman, where she would go all the way to the United States, wherever, I guess down here. I'm sorry. To Maryland. My bad. So Maryland. Never mind. Um, so where am I? Yeah. So Maryland's around here, right around here. So she would go all the way down to Maryland, to Canada, Maryland to Canada, going through the swamps, rivers, lakes, bushes. It's dark, pitch dark. Can't see nothing at night. I mean, we've driven on roads where there is no light posts, no outdoor light posts, no nothing. Even with your car headlights, it is pitch dark. You still can't see nothing, barely anything. Imagine the rain, maybe it's snowing, the hail, whatever type of weather they're getting. So this lady, 19 trips. She basically walked, or I guess you can say walked, from Canada to Maryland, Canada to Maryland, 19 times. And not one time was she approached by a dog. Not one time a dog didn't interrupt her voyage. Not one time it was not too dark to wander. Not one time did they not get into some kind of mishap. But again, like, when it's dark outside and there's no lights, people freak out. I would say, like, not like freak out, but people get worried. So imagine that, being pitch dark where you can't see nothing. All you have is the stars, but it's still pitch black. You don't know what animals are out there. You don't know what dogs are looking for you. You don't know if you're stepping in swamp. You don't know if you're stepping in rocks. You're climbing a mountain. You don't know if you're going east or west. I don't know. So the whole Harriet Tubman story is questionable. It's questionable of how, again, she made all these trips, but not one time had to deal with dogs. Again, I just ask questions. I ask a lot of questions. I just don't think the stories that they say about slavery actually happened the way they did. I think it's been very it's been altered to fit a narrative. They were also used as a way to enforce racial hierarchies and to facilitate an extraction and exploitation of black labor. See in this picture, they're using a dog to catch I guess you say, a runaway slave or a slave, Again, it's not just with slavery. They use dogs, as we learned in this. They train dogs to attack black people. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen today, but they use dogs to help with the racial profiling. Racial profiling and policing dogs as agents of fear. Dogs are still used as agent of fear today. I mean, these are man's best friend. How can man's best friend be agents of fear? You have man's best friend being used as agents of fear. I thought these things can sense bad people. But here we have people minding their own business, and they're going to sick these dogs on them. They use these dogs for hierarchies, for extraction, to exploit. And not once did these dogs all say, hey, no, these people are good. What I'm doing is wrong. And you see in these memes that they post, they post these memes as if the dog is talking. That's how brain dead these dog nuts are. That's how delusional this dog culture is. They know dogs are nonsensical. That's why they have to come up with these things. So here I am asking questions in that kind of sense, and you're not gonna get any response. You know that they don't have a response to this because it's the fact, it's truth. Like you're debunking, you're popping their bubbles, you're going against what they've been preaching for so long. Dogs are man's best friend, but the history says otherwise. The information, the evidence, the techniques that we use says otherwise. Dogs are not man's best friend. They are, as they say, agents of fear. Even when you surrender, they will still send dogs after you. Even when you surrender, the dogs still want to attack and hurt you. Dogs are, again, they're just so brain damaged, and they do not belong on the police force. There are so many better ways of dealing with threats or dealing with criminals or crooks or suspects. We have the technology now. We have drones. We have various robots now. We have different various of firearms, different ways of approaching and talking people. We have the I can't pronounce the word. Psychological ways of dealing with things. We don't need dogs. Dogs are brain damaged. All right, I am going to take a 10-minute break. I am talking in zigzags. I'm not sure why. Probably because the whole topic is, it's mind-numbing. Like it's very sad that these dogs that are lied about and are stated to be these great, kind, perfect, man's best friend, don't sense bad people, but to know what these dogs were used for, it is mind-numbing. It makes me frustrated. It really does. These dogs don't care of who or what they're attacking. They're gonna do what they're told to do. But these dog nuts in dog culture, they act as if the dog chooses to do what they do. They act as if the dog wants to be your friend. That's not true. They act as if the dog doesn't want to judge you or whatnot. But from the things we've seen here, these things are weapons. These things are killers. These things are brain damaged. They're evil. They're menacing. They just don't, in 2024, they don't belong here. Anyways, I am going to take a little break. I'll be back in 10 minutes. So I will see you then.
John says,
Alrighty, we are back. Gonna continue with dogs played a role in slavery. Question is, was this man's best weapon? And from the things that we've read and know and etc., I would say, yes, it was. Um, you have, you're able to, no, like knowing dogs. You can't negotiate with dogs. You can negotiate with the so-called slave master. You can plead for your life with the so-called slave master. But you cannot negotiate with dogs. If a dog's coming to attack you, there's no negotiating. There's no. I will do it. I will do it. No, you're gonna get attacked. Dog is going to attack you, even if you didn't do anything. Dog is going to attack you. Could imagine the situations that they had to deal with. Loose dogs, coming into their cabin, going near them when they're working. You're trying to go to the washroom. They're around you. Dogs being loose during Jim Crow era. You. I could imagine, and that's probably why for a long time. A lot of so-called black people were afraid of dogs, have been afraid of dogs. And because trauma does things, man. Trauma does things for people. It's such an underrated, like any event, a little event can create trauma. And these dogs create a lot of trauma for people. And it's usually, if a child is traumatized, or someone, or an adult, whoever is traumatized, I think it's most likely due to a dog incident. Not with them falling off their bike, not with them falling out of a tree, not with them getting into a fight with their friend, but traumatized because of a dog. Because when these things are attacking you, like they're attacking you. There's no off or on switch. There's no magic word you can say. When they're attacking you, you're probably, I don't know how it really feels, but I could imagine you're probably thinking, this is it. Probably think you're gonna die. You see blood, your limbs hurt, you can't run, you can't get away. That's trauma, and that lasts a lifetime. You don't even have to see a dog to feel to get triggered. For me, there used to be this loose dog in the neighborhood, and you would hear the collar jingling. And when you heard that, you knew the dog was around. So even today, when I hear jingles, I think there's a dog around. I will always look. And sometimes, like when I'm going into my vehicle or whatnot, and I hear jingles, and when I turn, it is a dog coming, usually with their dog, not owner. But I've been traumatized and conditioned by that stimulus. Yeah. I just hate dogs. They're weapons. They are weapons, and they've changed. Now dogs today are like your children now. They go from being weapons to being something that's totally disgusting, to now they're your children. Now they're, excuse my language, they're people having sex with these dogs now. So it's crazy how this dog culture can change, and no one says anything. But anyways, next thing we're gonna look at is in this website, academic oop.com, slave hound abolition in Americas. This was written in February 2020 of the 4th, and it was written by Charlington Wingling. He says in this one, the traveler's host, Mr. Mac James, made him a present, a fine bloodhound descended from a breed used for hunting maroons. Maroons are, I'll try to explain this the best I can. They're basically a tribe from Jamaica. And they would live like in the mountains all over, in the bush all over the place. So they're basically like a tribe of Jamaica. And yeah, during the Second Maroon War, almost 3 decades earlier, the Maroons had surrendered to the British partly out of terror of these dogs. A Cuban breed that officials were promoting for use in Jamaica on account of their effectiveness in quarreling black resistance. So it wasn't, I guess depending on the stories we know of, it wasn't the man, it wasn't the guns that made us or them, submit. It was the dogs. It was the fear of the dogs, the terror of these dogs, that caused the people, the Maroons, the Jamaicans, to submit to slavery. Unfamiliar with the breed, the traveler observed its astounding aversion to the slaves. For instance, when a young slave entered his room to wake him early one morning, the animal viciously charged the boy. Like I said earlier, I'm pretty sure a lot of children were mauled by these things. A lot of them were mauled by these dogs for really no reason whatsoever. Here we have a boy waking up, sees a dog, and what happens? The dog wants to viciously attack the boy. Scotsman judged that without his intervention, the hound would positively have torn him to pieces. So without that, there being a dog nutter holding back the worthless mutt, that boy, the people, would have been shred to pieces. Goes to show how vile these dogs are. And they were bred and trained for this, trained to hurt people. But in today, they want to put labels on as these are fur babies, these are innocent, it's how you train them. When these dogs, I would say some bully breeds, were created for this. They were created to hurt people. And you could imagine the things that they did with dogs. They probably did those bull baiting with people with these dogs. You could imagine. But people want to say that these dogs are precious, innocent. No, these dogs are vile. Of course, I can say, it's because of the people. Yeah. But it doesn't really matter. It could be Negroes, it could be white, it could be anyone. They could have used these dogs for any person. It wouldn't make a difference. And again, the problem is these dogs, that they're so vile. No matter the situation, no matter who they're attacking. In every topic that I've, shared, it is the dog itself that is so vile. And I'm not excusing what these so-called slave master or colonizers did. I'm not excusing that. Again, the focus of this channel is to focus on these dogs. And people are not like how people were back then. People have changed for the most part. But dogs, they still remain the same. And it's the lies too. It's the lying. The false representation of these dogs. Saying they're man's best friend and innocent and all that. But the history, the facts, and the evidence say otherwise. Uh, Again, in this instance, in this event, we had tribes and villages surrendering, people surrendering, not because of the people. They weren't surrendering because of the people made them surrender. They were surrendering because of fear of the dogs. So the people could have been dealt with. The people probably could have been dealt with. But it was the dogs that just made it impossible to survive or to keep hiding. They add the lash and the shackles remain the major symbols of physical degradation fixed in historical memory on slavery. Yet, as recounted by witnesses, including slaves themselves, the dog was perhaps a more effective tool of managing labor or even inflicting horrific pain or death on those who defied their master's commands. So it was easy for them, for the people to not listen to the other people. So easy to say no to a person, to a slave master. Slave master probably whipping you, having you in chains. It's still easy to say no. Still easy to disobey. Still easy to not want to be a slave. But then they add the dogs to the mix. It changes the whole dynamics. It changes the whole dynamics of slavery. It wasn't just the lashes. It wasn't just the yokes of iron. It wasn't just that. It was the dogs, too, that played a role in slavery. It was the dogs that made the people, made the nations, the tribes, the villages submit to be put in shackles and chains. Many of these tribes ran. They ran up the mountains, around the valleys, places where the people couldn't get to. But somehow the dogs got there. And what do? They just had to surrender. Hold on. Anyways, they add dogs enforce plantation regimens through quotidian intimidation and close-off fugitive landscapes with the acute adaptability to the varied Caribbean and North American terrains of sugar, cotton, coffee, tobacco plantations that they paroled. So, again, they're using dogs to intimidate the slaves to work and to do things. The common refrain among slaves of being treated worse than a dog. And there's that old saying that is used today. That people say we're being treated worse than a dog. I'm being treated worse than a dog. Oh boy, that person was treated worse than a dog. Because back then, in various times, they saw dogs as trash, as garbage, as low as the low. That's what they saw dogs are. So that's why that phrase of being treated worse than a dog is so relevant, is because we always knew that dogs are garbage. They're trash. They're trash. They're worthless. But during the slavery days, the people, the melanated people, the Negroes, ancestors, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, great-grands, were treated worse than a dog. They were seen as lesser species. That was well maintained by the white power it forfeited. Training dogs to attack only black instigated racism, as planters interpreted this as confirmation that even dogs knew the supposed immutable inferiority of blackness. So the dogs, again, they train these dogs, and the Negro was at a disadvantage. They were at a disadvantage. So who do you think that these things are going to attack? They see something that's shackled up, someone that is like hopeless, a sitting duck. It just becomes easy for them to be targeted. Plus, again, the training that these people do for these dogs to attack. That's another thing with people in general and this whole racism thing. A lot of movies and TV shows and media, they will portray different races as things, and I think it's really dumb. Like it's really dumb that people will accept what they hear from the media about groups of people. It's just so dumb. And I was never like this. Like I was always like, hey, just meet the person. TV is false. You know, I never was a person to be manipulated by the TV or the media. Not even as a child. And I watched a lot of TV. I didn't really buy into all the stereotypes. I just didn't care. But for people to fall for these stereotypes and to think that they're true, it's absurd. It's so dumb. Even if you haven't met someone or been to another place and you're accepting it just because you see it on a television, it's dumb. You see it in a movie, cartoons, it's so stupid. So dumb. And then movies and some children type movies, they did the same thing. I mean, you've seen certain, I think it was like Pocahontas, the first and the second one, where, you know, people, the people knew nothing about the natives. They never seen the natives before. But, you know, they're hearing that they're savages. But you never even met them. And they take that as fact. They treat that as fact. And that reflects on things and people and society today, where people just hear things, see it on TV, then accept it without even knowing for themselves. It's so dumb. So stupid. That's why I hate racism is dumb. Discriminating people, it's just so dumb. People say, well, what about dog culture? It's dogs. Dogs are worthless, though. Dogs are one killing people. Diseases. Killing their owners. They stink. They're ugly. The lies. The excuses. I mean, if you guys weren't lying and creating excuses, maybe it wouldn't be that bad. But the lies, the excuses, the censorship, the stigma, the demonizing that you guys do, the attacks, you're letting babies and children die. I gotta do this, and it's not even the same thing. I'm talking about people. Obviously, you dog lovers, you hate people. I get it. You hate people. You don't like people. You think dogs are better than people. But the fact remains is this: that racism, discrimination, stereotypes, it's all dumb. Obviously, to an extent, some things are true. There's no denying that. Some is true, but to act on it and to behave and to verbally and physically, emotionally put people down because of something, it's just so dumb. And no one had to tell me this. No one had to tell me this. And when 2024, when I see like posters or ads regarding, regarding like I guess equality type things or being not racist or not bullying, it's like, do we really need these things? Isn't it obvious that we should treat people well? Isn't it obvious that we shouldn't be, racist or hateful towards people? Isn't it obvious? Do we really need to be told not to do this? But it's just so frustrating. I get it. People are dumb. So I guess I kind of get why some dog lovers don't like people, because they are dumb. Like, people in general are just dumb. I mean, to be racist, to discriminate against anyone because they're different, it's just so stupid. People go through things in life. Everyone's not gonna have the same story. People go through ups and downs, disadvantages. Things happen. They lose limbs. People die. They get disfigured. They're born disfigured. They're born with this. They're born with that. But I just don't like. I just don't like when I guess people treat people bad, and that's probably why I really hate dogs, because dogs really treat people bad. But anyway, they're dogs and they're worthless. But yeah, let's continue. Again, they were treated worse than dogs. So that's how, stereotypes happen. I mean, they write it down in the newspaper, in a post. They spread rumors, and then they accept it as fact. Like, really? Really? Trained dogs to attack only. I already read that. Yeah. They add the abuse and the misuse of dogs by humankind against humankind is predicted upon thousands of years of intervention with dogs, reproduction, progeny, Pavlovany, and conditioning. What we just talked about. We just talked about this, isn't it? Especially with dogs, it's conditioning. You can make a dog do anything. Obviously, you can't make a dog do anything, but as long as it's like realistic and reachable, like you can make a dog do anything. You feed it, you condition it, you punish it, give it consequences. It's gonna do it. It's not about love. It's not about judging. Not about if you're a bad person. Not about being man's best friend. They're just gonna do it because you train them to do it, or they're drugged up. Through breeding and training, slave hunters believed that they had conditioned enmity between their dogs and black people, premised upon innate, perceptible racial difference. Before the advent of slave societies, dogs were used by the first European colonizers in the Americas to suppress indigenous populations. So again, I accept and I believe that the melanated people are the indigenous of the Americas. They are the natives of the Americas. Not to say they're the only complexion here, but they are indigenous to the Americas, to the Canadas, to South Americas, to the Caribbean. They were already here. And as we've been talking about in Jamaica, like how when they mentioned the Maroons, I don't know where they mentioned it, but anyways, they mentioned the Maroons. So these Maroons didn't just come off a ship. These Maroons were already in America, or in Jamaica, or in the Caribbean. I can't find it. They were already here. Yeah, here it is. The Maroons were already in Jamaica. Native people, indigenous people were already they were already here in the Caribbean. Not to say they didn't bring some people from so-called Africa into the Caribbean, but a lot of people were already there. They were already there. They're already in the Americas, in the so-called U.S. So, I mean, how can you? I mean, how doesn't make any sense though? So you're gonna come from all the way from Africa to Jamaica, and somehow call yourself a Maroon, or they're gonna call you Maroons, or whatever the case may be. Obviously, they were already established here long before the colonizers came in here. The melanated people were all over the world. And that's why I question this so-called Atlantic, whatever you want to call it. I question it. I mean, to take and to hoard thousands of hundreds of people into a ship, into the cold, and to bring them over to the US, and then for them to work when they're pretty much sick, that doesn't make sense, because again, they're already all here. They're already in the Americas, they're already in the South Americas, in the Caribbean, they're already here. And like they've been saying, they had to use dogs. Dogs were used to make them submit and to surrender. So it wasn't just these guys came here, hey, work for us. We have a gun, okay, let's surrender. No. People scattered, people ran, there was wars. And they even mentioned how there were, during this, I don't know much about this, but they're saying that Jamaica's Second Maroon War. So there were wars going on. So it wasn't like, hey, we're here, let's go be slaves. No, they fought. They ran. They didn't surrender. They didn't want to be slaves. So if they were already shackled and coming from Africa to here, it shouldn't be hard to make them work or to enslave them. Because these people in the Americas, South Americas, Caribbean, there were people already there, with their villages, with their communities, whatever they were living in. And they couldn't make them do anything. And there's always exception. There's always going to be exception. Couldn't make them do anything. Couldn't make them surrender without the use of dogs. Dogs were used. But the history books, other historians, they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about the role that these dogs played in slavery, enslaving the people, enslaving our melanated people. I mean, how would you have a war? I mean, if it doesn't make sense. Like you're gonna carry people. You're gonna carry people from Africa to another land, and you're gonna have a war. What are they gonna use? Probably because again they were already settled in these places. What they use in the civilizations, I cannot say, but again, they were already here. And they couldn't implement their slavery until they used the dogs. And they themselves, it's been stated that dogs were the most effective. They're the most effective way to control enslaved people. You can say no to your slave master and get whipped and be like, whatever. But the dog drew fear, the dog drew terror. That's how vile and evil these things are. I'm not gonna read too much all into this, but dogs attacking children is nothing new under the sun. It's nothing new under the sun. The ad, this is from animals247.org. The ad, the use of dogs in this way is ingrained in the fabric of European and Euro-American colonial settler mentality. So, they knew something in Europe. I don't. They most likely back in Europe, use these dogs again to bring fear and terror to their people. And that's another thing. I'm sorry, I do that often, but that's another thing with slavery and all that. And again, people think it's a white and black issue. It's not a white and black issue. You don't think that these white people, so-called white people, were enslaving their own people? They were enslaving their people in Russia, in France, in the UK. They were all enslaving their people. Whether it's, shackles, terror, fear type of thing, or it's like political thing, they were enslaving their people. So it's not a black and white issue. They weren't all happy. Like, they were not all happy. If they're all happy, then I don't know. They weren't all happy. So this whole dog thing, it's most likely it's nothing new. My guess and my theory is that, again, they use these dogs in their own place, in their own countries, to control the people. And guess what? It worked. It worked there. Some of the other dog breeds, new dog breeds, it worked there. So why not try it across the lake, across the ocean? And guess what? It worked again. People turn this blind eye to dogs, and dogs played a role. I don't want to say an important role. If I say important role, it feels like I'm uplifting the dog, but dogs played a role in slavery, not just in the West, but I think all over the world. They played an important role. How else would they have known that these dogs would behave certain ways? It's most likely these Europeans, they knew that, and they brought them with them. And obviously they, breeded these dogs. They got dogs from Cuba all over the place, and you rebred them, and you know what they do, to make them suitable or whatever, to make them more scary and dangerous, if that even makes sense. That's what I'm saying. But anyways, old mistakes repeated, but the U.S. military was scarcely done with using dogs as weapons to rouse Native Americans, or with failure in attempts. During the Dakota War of 1862, soldiers were sent to Tennessee to purchase dogs trained to follow the scent of Negro everywhere to his death, but soon found they were hopelessly ineffective at scenting the trails of the Sioux. I think that's like a tribe. It's a tribe. So basically they're saying they're able to they're able to smell the Negro, but they failed to smell the Sioux. So these dogs were not perfectly reliable. According to Theodore Potter, a soldier who observed the hounds in action, the animals would stick their tails between their legs and make a cowardly sneak in the opposite direction. So that's what happens when dogs are scared. So when dogs are scared, they will tuck their tail in and go the opposite direction. As we all know, again, dogs are used for fear, terror, and as weapons. Again, police use them back then and now, attacking innocent people all abroad. So yeah, it's nothing. It's that old saying: "There's nothing new under the sun." Nothing new under the sun, and there really isn't. When it comes to these dogs, there is nothing new about them. I guess these are just some pictures of yeah, see in this picture, these are escaping. They're escaping, and guess who's there? It's the dogs chasing them. And they didn't have no guns. They barely had any weapons. They may have had a stick or so, but that's not going to be enough. We know that's not going to be enough. So it's scary, and you're trying to get away, but somehow they're able to smell your scent. They're able to track you down. They're going to attack. They're going to hurt you. That's the one I used. Again, you got escapees. They just have a hatchet or axe. It looked like he did take down one dog, but the other two, they still want blood. They still want something. You can see that this guy has shackles on his hands. He's pretty much half naked. This is what it was. Trying to escape, and you're getting attacked by dogs. So it really wasn't the slave master that was intimidating. It was the dogs. And again, there's exception. But I really think dogs played a big role in slavery, and I'm showing you. Yes, this is how they train dogs. It looks like. Police Academy dog training under Arpithad, 1976. I guess the dog is training, and guess who they're using? Yeah, these are the type of dogs that they use to attack the people. Again, another iconic picture that we're all familiar with, protesting, wanting freedom, wanting free rights, and etc., etc. And, they use these dogs as weapons to attack the people. Man's best friend, I think not. Because in today's day, people want the best for dogs. They say dogs are supposed to be loved and free and all this. And these people want to be free and they want to be loved and etc. But these dogs are attacking them. So all that dogs want to be loved and all that nonsense it's false. No one really knows what dogs really want. They just put a label on it. Because you look through history, the way dogs were treated has been very different throughout the years. You see dogs being used against slaves, dogs being treated as trash, dogs being drowned in the East River, dogs, not allowed in the kitchen, not allowed in the home, dogs being seen as disgusting. And now we have dogs sleeping in the bed, dogs eating in the kitchen, dogs, you have people sexing up dogs. We have dogs being called children. Throughout the year, it changes. So there's no way we can say that, hey, dogs want to be loved and all that. If that was the case, why are dogs being used? And why do dogs do this? Why do dogs attack innocent people? Why do dogs attack people that mean well? It really makes no sense. You can't say dogs want to be loved and the rights and all this, but they're going to attack people that want pretty much the same thing. It makes no sense. But the truth is this, that dogs are just worthless. They're trained to be vicious. And not even just trained, but dogs are just vicious naturally, but in the perspective of the military, of police officers, of these slave owners, they were trained to attack, to viciously attack slaves, to attack people, to intimidate people. But obviously, again, sometimes you don't even need to train them to do that. They're just going to do it naturally. But again, it just varies from time to time. But overall, again, dogs are worthless and dogs are dangerous. That's what it's about. It's like a statue, monument thing of these worthless mutts. And do these dogs look lovable? These dogs look scary. They look like demons. They look demonic. They do not look like things that want to be loved. They do not look like things that want to be a fur baby. They're demonic. They're just vile. And again, it's people that made this, dog nutters that made this. They made this. They made them look like this in this picture. You know why? Because they seen them act like this in real life. Because this is what they are. But the dog nutters and dog culture today, they paint this picture and create this delusion, this bubble, as if dogs are lovable. As dogs love you. Dogs want to be your friend. Dogs want to be free and all. No, dogs don't know what they want. If dogs knew what they wanted, you wouldn't be rescuing them every day. If dogs knew what they wanted, they wouldn't be locked up in shelters and crates every day, all around the world. Dogs know nothing, because again, dogs are worthless. I think I said what needed to be said already. Again, dogs. Sorry, just give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Yeah, dogs. They played a role in slavery. Here in this picture, you have like a grown man. You can even say he's maybe Negro, maybe native like complexion. But you can see in this picture, this guy is willing to turn his back. Willing to turn his back on the gunmen, but is willing to face the dogs. That goes to show that, hey, we're not really intimidated by the people, per se. You don't really intimidate us. Like, we can say no and refuse. We don't care if you shoot us in the back. What we care about more and what we're scared about more is being attacked by these vicious, worthless He's willing to turn his back against his family to fend off the dogs. These are man's best friend. Man's best friend's gonna attack him and his family. Man's best friend. When y'all say dogs want love and all this crap that you say that dogs want, but when people want it, how come these dogs don't see that? How come these dogs aren't like, hey, these people are good people, we should not be doing this? But no. The narrative of dog culture is to, lie. Always lie. Ignore, lie, excuses, make lies, ignore again. Again, that's another article that dogs played a big role in slavery. They played a big role in slavery. Can't see too well, but there are dogs surrounding him while he's climbing the tree, and while they're pointing guns at him. Yeah, it's just the lies, man. It's the lies. Like, they say dogs are all of this, but I'm not seeing it. I am not seeing it. I think that's it for today. Yeah. Yeah. I have my opinion on things. I'm always listening to things. I've been on YouTube since 2006. And I've seen a lot of information, and I gotta thank YouTube. Back in 2006, and in that era, YouTube was awesome. I learned so much. I was like only in high school back then. I learned so much on YouTube, man, and I'm grateful for what I've learned. So it wasn't for YouTube, I probably wouldn't have know the things I know now about history, about the so-called black man, and various things. Um, but in YouTube, man, since the very beginning, there's always been wars, man. Always been wars in YouTube based on religion, information, point of view, lifestyles. Since then, now that's all you see. Like every YouTuber's like always. No, I won't say every, but there are a lot of YouTubers out there that just fighting other YouTubers, other viewers or subs or fans. Always wanting to pick sides. Like, it's just like, really. I mean, you have a brain, you have the ability to do your own research. Why don't you go out there and figure out what's true and what's not? If you find the truth and someone is coming up with something totally different than yours, who cares? Shrug and move on. But so many people on YouTube want to fight, want to argue over information. Like it's been going on for a long time. I've been on YouTube for a long time. I've seen it. And a lot of these YouTubers you think are like cool and whatnot, they end up showing a side that's, not too good, and it just creates more conflict and friction with everyone. So it's just so crazy. And with that, I don't like when I'm first hearing things, I don't just accept it. I don't just say hey, or say things like, hey guy, this guy's crazy. I listen, do my own research, try to validate it, try to confirm it, type of thing. Think about it, observe, and try to come up with a conclusion. Some things I can come up with a factual conclusion. Other things it's just like I'm still thinking about it. Other thing I'm just not sure, but I'm not going to dismiss every single information out there. As for things in history like the so-called Atlantic slave trade, I don't think it happened the way they say it happened. Especially with the how the enslavement happened. Many textbooks and etc. They don't mention dogs playing a role. When dogs played a big role, they played a huge role in enslaving the people, in killing the people, hurting the people. The trauma, and that's probably why a lot of black people just don't like dogs or are scared of dogs. But obviously, dog culture has worked extra overtime with pushing dog nuttery, pushing dog propaganda in the cartoons, in celebrities, and all over the places, billboards, ads, places where dogs are irrelevant at. And that's why so many so-called black people now are dog nutters. But some of them don't even realize that dogs too are like the enemy. They don't even realize dogs are the enemy. They enslaved our people, your people, for many years. Helped enslave it for many years. Played a crucial role. Where the guns and the people per se just wasn't enough to enslave us. But the dogs, because of fear, terror, the noise, it made us or made them submit, made them surrender. It was because of the dogs. And we've read various articles that read many articles on the roles that dogs played. And in each one, it was pretty much the same thing of dogs, of causing fear, terror, bloodshed, attacking, and it's really no different from now in a sense. Obviously, there's no slavery isn't what it was like back then, but we still have a lot of dog attacks happening, a lot of killings with dogs, police and dogs, military and dogs. So dogs are just a huge problem. They are a huge problem no matter what. That's all I have to say. I thought I did well in this video. I don't know. I'm just talking. I don't feel like I'm talking well. I feel like I'm, again, talking like zigzags. I just think it's probably because this topic is so it's a sensitive topic. It's not a topic that you want to talk about anywhere, every place. There's always a time and place for everything. So it's probably just realizing what many people have to go through, knowing how much I hate dogs, knowing how much I'm afraid of dogs, knowing how much I know about dogs. Just imagine back then, where there's no dog control, there's no YouTube about dogs, no dog trainers, no nothing, and you're being surrounded by dogs. And what do the slave master and everyone else do? They do nothing. They let the dogs attack you, and they leave you for dead. They may not let the dog kill you, but they'll leave you for dead. They'll let you suffer instead of having the dog kill you, for most cases. Dogs, back then were still attacking. They were still attacking the children. I did mention how they used babies as gator bait, and they created stamps and they created stamps, pictures of this, but they don't mention or have pictures of dogs playing a much more of a crucial role in slavery compared to gators. They don't mention that. It's like everyone knows about the gator bait, but they don't realize that dogs played a huge role of mauling and tormenting people throughout the slavery days. And not just throughout the slavery days, civil rights days, and even till now. But all the other animals, depending on what it is, they get the spotlight. I mean, and it's pretty common. Like when dogs do bad, or if it's too negative for dogs, they don't mention it. But when dogs do good, they're gonna mention it. Put those on the pedestal and ignore all the bad things they did, just like during slavery. Yeah, I thought I did okay here. I'm not talking too well. I don't know if I missed anything. Trauma's a big one. Trauma is a big one. Yeah, I think this helps paint a better picture. I don't know why it's so big. And just like, at the days of slavery, call this maybe the civil rights time, and then it's the present day people, and dogs have played a key role in each generation. You got the slavery day dogs, and you got like the civil rights dogs of dogs ambushing, protests, and then today you have loose dogs in grocery stores, and it's just causing and creating a lot of trauma. I just wish we'd break out of this trauma, but we can't because dogs still exist. Yeah, I don't think if I have something else to add to this, but I guess not. I guess I'm gonna end it there. Hope you learned something. That's a bit of a sensitive topic. Um, yeah, again, it's nothing. I have nothing against people. Nothing against race, ethnics, cultures. I know people all over the world are gonna be different. Like, can't expect them to be the same. But in some places, some people they're not able to handle different well. Some countries are not able. Some people are not able to handle different. It's like they want you to be just like them. And when you come, you look a little different, sound a little different. They don't like that. They do not like that. So, yeah. So please don't be racist. Please, fix your, I guess, viewpoints of people. People come in all shapes and sizes, differences, and we got to beat that barrier, beat that cycle. I remember again, grade 3 or whatever. I thought, things were bad back then, but I thought things would get better now. I thought would be like less racial and all that, but I think we are to an extent, but it still exists in splotches, which is just as bad. Yeah, so this again, stop being racist, people. But it's speaking of racist though, a lot of dog lovers are racist. I've dealt with them, and when you're owning them and showing how worthless dogs are, you know what they do? They become so racist. They start using racial insults. I've been there multiple times where you're just talking about dogs. You're not making any personal remarks. It's just strictly dogs. Like, I'm not gonna talk about their job. I'm not gonna talk about their children or things like that. I'm just gonna talk about dogs and dog culture. That's what I keep it at. But a lot of these dog nutters are racist. They will just insult you with the racial remarks. It's funny, man. They want you to love their dogs, but they themselves can't even respect other people. Does that make sense? Doesn't make sense. But that's dog culture for you. It's not supposed to make sense. Dog culture needs ruthless, lazy, dumb, mean people like dog lovers. Yeah, so please stop being racist. If you are racist, I gotta work things out. It's not just being racial, but it's also other discrimination, hating different cultures. Like you can, like, I disagree with religion. Like, I disagree with religion. I don't like religion. When I'm going against religion, I attack the religion. I ask questions about religion. I already know religion is what it is. But I don't, make all these other, horrible remarks about religion. I just keep it civil as possible. I keep it intellectual as possible. But when it comes to religion versus religion, some people are just so extreme with it. I don't even, like, during, like, 9/11, for example, there's not one time where I had a bad point of view about Muslims or Arab people. Like, it was just so dumb. Like, I never had one point of view, but it just blows up. Everyone is so divided, and it's just so easily manipulated. I mean, plus Muslim, it was kind of dumb too. I remember, Islam, Muslim, it's a religion. And just because you're Arab doesn't mean you're Muslim, though. So people, just because someone sees an Arab, instantly they think they're Muslim. That doesn't mean they're Muslim. They're just Arab, and they will automatically assume that they're Muslim. And it's just so dumb. I mean, even white people can be Muslim. Black. There are black Muslims here. They're the NOIs here, or in America, and they don't look like the Arabs. How come the NOI wasn't treated bad? So people were like going against Muslim, but they didn't say anything about the NOI, the Nation of Islam. They didn't say anything about Louis Farrakhan. They didn't say anything about that. Nothing was said about them. No threats, nothing. I don't know. Well, from what I know, like nothing would happen to them. But it's because someone is Arab. They just attack them for being Muslim. But you don't even know if they actually are Muslim. You don't know anything about them. But they're gonna, attack Islam, and I don't know, it's just so dumb. I hope that really made sense. Yeah, and I don't even think the map is even like this. I don't know. I think everything in the map is more closer together. I don't think the Atlantic is this far. I mean, it's in realistic, it's far, but I don't think in this map world, I don't think it's that far. Remember, planes have to go all across here to Africa, to whatever. Are they really gonna fly strictly across the Atlantic or the Pacific just to get somewhere? That's a lot of water, man. It's a lot of water. So I think it's a lot shorter than what we're told. And in some maps, Africa is, the biggest continent. But this map does very well. I think Africa's like the biggest continent. Is the biggest continent. It's way bigger than the U.S. and Canada combined. But in some maps, they will show how they do this on purpose, where Canada and the U.S. are going to be looked at as way bigger than Africa, and that's done on purpose. That's to, it's that, it's that racial thing. Just to make these, I guess, so-called white countries seem a lot bigger, and to make Africa look a lot smaller. And Africa is probably bigger than what they're showing here. Way bigger than this. Yeah. Another thing. And I know a lot of melanated people, they were all around the world. I don't think we all just came from Africa. I think eventually, whether it's millions of years later or not, I don't know. We were all, being created all around the world in various shades of melanin, all various features. That being said, Australia, the indigenous people of Australia you can tell by their features. In various countries in Africa, they have different features. So, I don't know, like, I don't think we all just came from Africa. I think we came from all over the world. Maybe not at the same time. Maybe a million years after. Who knows? Because you look at the indigenous people of Australia. You know them. You know how they look. And you can't find those types of people in Africa. You can't find those types of people in Brazil. They're like so... what's that word? I forgot that word, but... but they're just so like you look at Australian in the indigenous of Australia, they're from Australia. Like I don't think I've ever met an indigenous Australian in Canada or in the US. I don't think I've ever met one. There probably are there, but I don't think I've ever seen one. And if I did see one, I would know. But they all just seem to stay here. And you don't see, and they have again a lot of uh, races and countries. They all have similar characteristics. Like the so-called whites in the U.S., they are vastly different from the so-called whites from, let's say, Russia and Ukraine. You can tell the difference, and you can even tell the difference. The so-called whites in the U.S. look a little bit different, for the most part, from those from the U.K. as well. You have melanated people all in Africa, and in each country, for the most part, a lot of them look different compared to other countries. Like you can tell what someone from you can tell if someone's from Sudan. You can tell if someone's from Ethiopia. You can tell if someone probably is from South Africa. To an extent, like you can somewhat guess and tell, hey, this person looks like this person looks like that. So again, I don't think we all came from one place. I believe we're all over the place. And throughout time, I know they all certain nations were colonized and you would say bastardized. That's why certain races are look different. They look white, but they wouldn't say they're white. But various colonizers, for instance, in South America, they came over here and they pretty much we'll say those from like Spain and Portugal, they were like white and whatnot. And they came over here to South America and they just bastardized the place. That's why we have like that's why they are the way they are now. And they did that for a reason. I know they did that for a reason. Well, there's agendas. And abilities too. Abilities play a role in various nations. Like, just from what I observed, and there's always exception, but you can tell a so-called melanated person by their athleticism and flexibility compared to one from Africa, because Africans they move different. They move different compared to someone born and raised as an American. They move different. We all move different from each other. People in South America move different from those in the U.S. I mean, you play basketball against melanated people of the U.S. They just move different compared to those in Africa. They move very different. Like, some people in the U.S. are just born with this ability. They're born to be fast, born to jump higher. They're just born with this special physical ability. Not saying that doesn't happen in Africa, but it's very rare. I mean, I won't say rare, but it's like you can tell the difference. Tell the difference. That's why with their ability. I know a lot of countries in Asia. Sorry, that's another thing. Like, this whole continent thing is somewhat kind of confusing. I know this is like North America. Canada, U.S. to the Caribbean is like North America. But then all of this, I believe, is South America. And we have Europe here from Russia. But then China, Japan, etc. are Asia. Then you have Oceania, Australia and Indonesia, some of the Samoans, New Zealand are there, but then like countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Afghanistan, is that also Asia? Because you're not gonna call someone from Iran Asian. Someone looking like they're from China, Japan, you're gonna say, hey, these guys are Asian. Filipino, Asian maybe. Mongolia, you're gonna say they're Asian. Thailand, they're Asian. Burma, you're Asian. But they probably do consider like India, Pakistan as Asia. But you're not gonna call these guys Asian. You're not gonna call an Indian Asian, an Afghani Asian. So this whole continent thing it's very confusing. And they also say like Israel. Where is Israel? Oh, right here. Like Israel and Egypt are part of Africa, but some people or whatever narrative they play, they don't even consider Israel part of Africa when it pretty much is, you know. So these continents, it's so confusing. So to me, they would probably be, just to make things easier, 1, 2. Okay, so we'll have 1. Caribbean is 2. South America 3. Africa 4. Saudi Arabia to India would be like 5, another continent. Oceania, Australia, all the other islands here, that's another continent. We have China, Japan, all the other Asians are another continent. Then we have Europe. That'll be another continent right there. It's so confusing. Yeah. Yeah, and also in Africa, like some people, yeah, I know this is all Africa, but some people don't even consider like countries like Mauritania, Morocco, Algeria, Libya. I don't think some of them even call themselves African, because they're not all like black. If that, they're not all. How should I use that term? They're not all like melanated. In some of these countries, they're not melanated. They're like I don't know, hard to explain. They're like tannish, brownish. You know, it's complicated. So these countries are like vastly different from all the rest. But these people even consider themselves African. Go to Morocco. Are you gonna call a Moroccan, if that's the term, African? You think they call themselves, hey, I'm African? You think those in Algeria are gonna call themselves African? And African is isn't even the proper name for it. I forgot I'm so bad at regurgitating history and stuff. Africa is not even the proper name of the continent, but I forgot what it's called. I completely forgot. But there was another name for it, but I can't even remember. But yeah, so a lot of these, like North Africa, I don't think a lot of them even call themselves African. Or they're from Africa. They just say, oh, I'm from Morocco. I'm Moroccan. I'm Algerian. Yeah, it's strange. And then you have South Africa that's like mixed with people. So how did that come to be? Probably because, again, all didn't just come from one place. I think that we were all scattered throughout it. We're all scattered. And history, that little mini history thing, so-called melanated people. I know that we conquered like pretty much the whole world in a sense. Like, I know we conquered Portugal, Spain. It might have been France as well. Like, we conquered UK. That was all like melanated people. But through over time and things happened, slavery and all that other stuff, and being manipulated and overtaken, um, these countries got bastardized. And people looking at Spain and Portugal would think, hey, these were never melanated countries. But you look back in history and look at their figures and statues, like, these were melanated countries, Spain and Portugal. If you know about the Moors, like, they ruled Spain, Portugal area. But obviously, people get tricked and things happen throughout time that we actually don't exactly know what happens. We don't know what happened, but what we're taking. Yeah. Oh yeah, Papua New Guinea. Again, that's like a lot of like melanated people, I believe. So it's like the melanated people, they were all over. Like, they were all over the world, man. But things change, countries get bastardized, overtaken, things like that. As we know, Egypt was like Egypt. Ancient Egypt was like the go-to place. Everyone went to learn in Egypt, ancient Egypt, or Kemet, if you want to call it that. And the Greeks and etc. They were like very, I guess, close. With time and things happen. All right, I'm gonna end it there. Hope whatever I said makes any sense, because again, I'm really not that great of regurgitating history and points like that. Like, I understand it, I understand things, but to regurgitate it, I'm not the go-to guy for that. But again, topic of this video was dogs played a role in slavery. Was this man's best weapon? Yes. To a certain extent, dogs, were the game changer. I believe dogs were the game changer in a lot of sense. It wasn't just the guns and the so-called white man that made people submit. I believe it was the dogs that really really made the difference. Really read about dogs attacking, slaves, intimidating slaves, and tribes, submitting or surrendering because of the dogs. And that's the type of thing, again, we do not hear in our textbooks or in the media regarding, Black history. You don't hear about the roles that dogs played. You don't hear about it. None. Like, nothing is said about it. Again, they do that on purpose to protect the dog. And again, I don't care if someone trained the dog or not. Dogs are evil. Dogs are, the worst. They're worthless. They're dangerous, no matter what. But in dog culture, they treat these dogs as angels, as perfect, as good. But our history and our evidence say otherwise. And that means these dog nutters have to lie and continue to create excuses to push their dog nuttery, to protect dogs, because no doubt there is a dog agenda to go and to have dogs, intimidate slaves, to treating dogs like trash, keeping dogs out of the house, out of the kitchen, where the so-called black man did not want to own dogs, where the so-called black man didn't own a dog. There wasn't lovey-dovey with a dog. To now, where dogs are treated better than children, dogs are treated better than people. So, dogs were not always, man's best friend. Dogs were not always fur babies. it happened by design. So if things like that can just happen by design and it's not natural, that means that there is an agenda going on. There is a narrative. There is dog propaganda. If they did not want dog propaganda, they would not be pushing any dog propaganda. And there, hope I made any sense today. If not, disagree, agree. It's your call. But anyways, let's help popularize dog hatred. Thank you for joining me.